Don't you love it when that happens? Today I'm going to show you how to create a parametric detail component so that you can improve your details in Revit. Hi everyone, welcome to BIM Lounge, it's good to see you. Make sure you don't miss any of our weekly BIM productivity videos. Now let me show you how to create a detail component from start to finish. The first thing you may want to do when starting a new detail component is to find the right dimensions from a reputable source. In this case, I'm downloading an image so I can trace it within my detail component family. Now let's go ahead and create a new detail component. File, New, Family, and look for detail item. Now at this point, what you may want to do is set the units, project units, and what I like to do here is to set my length unit so that when I work in imperial, for example, I'm using fractional inches, or when I work in metric, I use either centimeters or millimeters, just because it's easier to handle those numbers within the family editor. Now I'm working in imperial, so I'll go ahead and pick fractional inches. And one thing to check is also the scale. Let's make sure that we have the right scale so the dimensions appear in the correct scale. So now we're ready to drag and drop our image. And what you may want to do right away is scale it. Now the first thing you want to do in the family editor when start drawing is to create the reference planes. So let's go ahead and do that. Create reference planes. Now you want to go ahead and roughly trace all these lines. Let's go ahead and use the align dimension. So let's dimension that first, these two, and let's go ahead and assign these. For example, this would be the width. Let's leave it as a type parameter dimension. This will be, we're looking at this block in plan, so this will be the depth. Now that we have the rough dimensions, let's go ahead and make these dimensions equal. For example, I'm going to select the dimension. I'm going to type CS for create similar, and let's dimension. Let's pick those three reference planes and activate equal, and let's do the same for the depth there. So now all these dimensions will be centered on these two axes. Now at this point, we're ready to start creating some types to make sure that we can properly flex this family. Now let's go ahead and go to family types. And right away, I know that the width is always going to be 5 or 15 and 5/8. And what's going to change is the depth. So what I'll do to simplify things is to start from the 4. So that's going to be 5 and 3 and 5/8. Now at this point, let's create the first one, which is, and let's use nominal names. So 4 by 16, and that's done. Now at this point, we have all these dimensions. Let's verify the 8 by 16, which is the one we've been referencing. We're going to apply. So that seems to work correctly. Let's focus on the overall dimensions, and let's flex it starting from the 4 by 16, and you see that those are centered. Great, so those are flexing correctly. Now we need to focus on the internal reference planes. Now let's go ahead and draw some dimensions. Go to create dimension, and let's dimension these two and these two. Now, based on 8-inch, you can assign this to be 1.25, and these two to be 1 inch. Okay. Now at this point, if you know you're not going to change these parameters, you can select them individually and click on the padlock so that they will always follow these outer reference planes. But I think I'd like to have control just so we can do it properly. So let's go ahead and assign a parameter to that, and it's on the X axis, so maybe we can call it X web, and let's assign the same to that one, and maybe we can select both of these and let's call that Y web. Now at this point we know these dimensions are going to follow the parameters, so let's go ahead and set all the dimensions based on this reference. So we know that the 8 has the X as 1 inch and the Y 1/4 inch. So let's take a look at the 4. The 4 has 1 inch for both of them. So let's go ahead and create the fill region. Create fill region, and all you have to do here is trace all these reference planes. Now the reason why we created the reference planes first is because they need to be in place for these lines to actually be locked onto them. Great, so now we can of course make sure that we're assigning this to the right fill pattern, and I think this is looking good. Now let's go ahead and flex it to make sure that the fill region actually follows the parameters. So let's switch to the 10x16 and it works. 4x16 and 6x16. I think it's all working correctly. Now before you load this family to your project or save it in your library, I'm going to recommend that you delete the image. The image won't really show in the project anyway, but it's just good to keep this family lean. Now, a question for you. What are some challenges that you're facing when creating detail components or details? Let me know in the comments below, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.